Yuna returned to the Iron Mountain as a different person. She carried the crystal that Han had given her, pressed close to her heart. She carried knowledge that would change the galaxy forever. And she carried a mission that felt heavier than any burden she had ever known. They met her in the hangar bay. His face was tight with worry. "Commander, we detected strange energy readings from the ship. What happened in there? Are you hurt?" "I am fine," Yuna said. She looked at her crew, at the soldiers who had trusted her with their lives. "But I need to speak to everyone, now, and then I need to contact the Galactic Council." An hour later, Yuna stood before her entire fleet via communication screens. Every captain, every officer, every crew member was listening. She told them everything about Han, about the evolution of humanity, about the void that was coming to destroy them all. When she finished, there was silence. Then, Captain Tay's voice came through the speakers. "Commander, how do we know this is true? How do we know it is not a trap?" It was a fair question. It was a fair question. Yuna had expected it. "Because I have seen it," she replied. "I have walked through that ship. I have spoken with Han, and I have this." She held up the crystal. It pulsed with light, projecting images into the air around her. The fleet watched as history unfolded before them, the rise of humanity, their evolution, their hidden vigil over the galaxy. They saw the void consuming distant galaxies. They saw the plans for defense. When the images ended, nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, Day broke the silence. "What do we do now?" Yuna straightened her back. "Now, we go home. We bring this evidence to the council. We convince them to listen. And then we prepare for war." The journey back to the capital world took 3 weeks. During that time, Yuna contacted every ally she had, every friend who owed her favors, every leader who might listen. She sent copies of the crystal's data ahead, so the council would have time to review it. Some believed her immediately. Others laughed and called her crazy. A few threatened to have her arrested for spraying dangerous lies, but Yuna did not stop. She could not stop. The fate of the galaxy depended on her. When they reached the capital, a crowd was waiting. News had spread across the stars. Everyone had heard about the ghost ship, about the human who had awakened after 20,000 years, about the coming darkness. Some were afraid. Some were angry. Some were hopeful. Yuna walked through the crowd with her head held high. Han had chosen to stay on the Eternal Dawn, but he had sent a message with her, a message for everyone. The council chamber was the largest room Yuna had ever seen. Representatives from 100 species sat in rows of seats that stretched to the ceiling. At the center was a platform where speakers addressed the assembly. When Yuna stepped onto that platform, the chamber fell silent. She spoke for 2 hours. She showed the evidence, answered questions, endured insults and accusations. Some council members stormed out in anger. Others wept. A few sat perfectly still, their faces unreadable. When she finished, the Supreme Chancellor and Ancient being named Bora rose to speak. "This is a great deal to accept," Bora said slowly. "You are asking us to trust the very species that our ancestors feared above all others." "I am asking you to trust the truth," Yuna replied. "The void does not care about our old wars or our old hatreds. It will destroy us all, regardless of what we believe. And if we refuse, if we choose not to follow the humans into another trap," Yuna looked at the Chancellor with steady eyes, "then we die, separately, alone, and everything we have built will be forgotten." Bora was silent for a long moment. Then she looked around the chamber at the representatives of 100 worlds. "We will vote," she announced. "All in favor of accepting the human alliance and preparing for the threat they have described?" Hands rose across the chamber. Slowly at first, then faster. One by one, species that had been enemies for centuries chose to stand together. The vote passed. Yuna felt tears on her face again. But this time, they were tears of relief. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Han transmitted the locations of the hidden Dawnbreaker ships. Across the galaxy, massive vessels emerged from asteroids and gas clouds and the cores of dead stars. They had been waiting for this moment. They had been waiting for 20,000 years. Scientists from every species began studying human technology. Engineers started building new weapons. Soldiers trained for a war unlike any they had imagined. And humanity itself began to return. Not in physical bodies, most of them had moved beyond that long ago. But they appeared as guides and teachers, as voices in the minds of those who needed help. They shared knowledge freely, holding nothing back. They worked alongside their alien cousins as equals, not masters. Yuna returned to the dead sector one more time, to see Han again. The Eternal Dawn was no longer alone. Hundreds of ships surrounded it now, the beginning of a fleet that would grow to millions. The place where Earth had once existed was no longer empty. It was the center of something new, something beautiful. Han met her on the bridge. He looked different, now happier, lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from his soul. "You did it," he said. "You convinced them." "We did it," Yuna corrected. "All of us together." She walked to a window and looked out at the stars. So many ships, so many species, so much hope. "What happens now?" she asked. Han stood beside her. "Now, we wait. We prepare. We build. And when the void comes, we face it together. Are you afraid?" Han was quiet for a moment. "I was afraid for 20,000 years, he admitted. Every day, I wondered if I had made the right choice. If staying behind was worth it. If anyone would ever listen." He turned to look at her. "But I am not afraid anymore. Because of you. Because of all of them." He gestured at the ships outside, at the galaxy they represented. This is what humanity always dreamed of. Not conquest. Not empire. Just connection. Being part of something greater than ourselves. Belonging. Yuna smiled. "You belong with us now. You are not alone anymore." "No," Han agreed. "None of us are." A signal came through the ship's communication system. It was from the Council, announcing that the first joint training exercises would begin tomorrow. Species that had never worked together were learning to fight as one. Yuna laughed softly. "I never thought I would see this day." "Neither did I," Han said. "But here we are. The beginning of a new era." He placed his hand on the window, touching the cold glass that separated them from the infinite void. "The void is coming," he said. "It will be the greatest challenge any of us have ever faced. But look at what we have built. Look at what we have become." Yuna looked. She saw not just ships, but a statement. A promise. A defiance against the darkness. "We are ready," she said. Han nodded. "Yes, we are." Outside, the stars burned bright. They had burned for billions of years, and they would burn for billions more. Because now, there were guardians watching over them. Humans and aliens standing together, united by hope and love and the simple desire to survive. The legendary ghost ship had returned. Humanity had awakened. And the galaxy would never be silent again. The next few hours changed everything Yuna thought she knew about the universe. Han led her through the eternal dawn, showing her wonders that made her feel like a child seeing stars for the first time. There were rooms filled with knowledge, libraries that contained the history of 1,000,000 worlds. There were gardens where plants from Earth still grew, kept alive by machines that never stopped working. There were windows that showed not just space, but time itself, glimpses of the past and possible futures. How is this possible? Yuna asked again and again. And each time, Han gave the same answer. Humanity learned. We had time. We made mistakes, but we never stopped trying to understand. They sat in a room that looked like a peaceful meadow, though Yuna knew they were still inside the ship. Grass grew under her feet. A gentle wind touched her face. Birds sang in trees that should not exist. This is a memory, Han explained. A place from Earth that we wanted to preserve. We created spaces like this on all our ships, so we would never forget where we came from. Yuna touched the grass. It felt real. It smelled real. For a moment, she could almost believe she was on a planet, not floating in the void of space. Tell me more about the void, she said. I need to understand what we are facing. Han's expression became serious. He waved his hand, and the peaceful meadow transformed into a dark space filled with stars. But some of those stars were wrong dim and red, flickering like dying candles. The void is not a creature, he began. It is more like a force of nature. Imagine a wave in the ocean, except this wave destroys everything it touches. It moves through space, and wherever it goes, life ends. But what is it made of? Where does it come from? We do not fully understand. Our scientists studied it for thousands of years. They believe it comes from the space between galaxies, from the great emptiness that exists beyond the stars. It may be as old as the universe itself. He pointed at the flickering stars. These are galaxies that the void has already consumed. Billions of worlds. Trillions of lives. All gone. All forgotten. Yuna felt cold despite the warmth of the simulated meadow. How do you fight something like that? With difficulty, Han admitted. But not impossibly. The void is powerful, but it has weaknesses. It moves slowly. It cannot think or plan. And there are energies that can push it back, at least temporarily. He created a new image in the Era ship, but unlike any Yuna had seen. It was shaped like a star, with 6 points extending from a central core. Light pulsed through its structure, beautiful and deadly. This is a Dawnbreaker, Han said. It is a weapon designed to fight the void. Each ship can generate a field of pure energy that can slow the void's advance. With enough of them working together, we can create a barrier that will hold it back. How many do you have? 10,000. Hidden across the galaxy, waiting. 10,000 ships. Yuna tried to imagine it. The entire Galactic Patrol Fleet had only 500 vessels. And humans had built 10,000 of these Dawnbreakers? Your technology is incredible, she said. It had to be. We knew what was coming. We had 20,000 years to prepare. Han stood and walked to a window that now showed the real stars outside. His reflection looked tired, older somehow. But ships are not enough, he continued. The void is vast. Even 10,000 Dawnbreakers cannot cover the entire galaxy. We need fleets from every species, working together. We need soldiers and scientists and engineers from all worlds. We need unity. That will not be easy, Yuna said honestly. The species of this galaxy do not trust each other. They barely cooperate at all. And they certainly do not trust humans. Han nodded sadly. I know. That is why we waited. We hoped that in 20,000 years, things would change. That old hatreds would fade. That new generations would be more open. Have they? Han turned to look at her. You are here. You listened to me. You did not attack when you saw our ship. That gives me hope. Yuna thought about her fleet, still waiting outside. Captain Tay and his crew. Day and the soldiers. They had all been raised on stories of human danger. Would they accept this? Would they believe that humans had returned not as conquerors, but as saviors? I will try, she said. But you must understand, this will take time. We will need proof, evidence, something to show the council that you are telling the truth. I can give you proof, Han said. He touched a console, and a small object appeared in his hand. It was a crystal, glowing with soft light. This contains everything. Our history, our technology, our plans. Take it to your council. Let them see for themselves. Yuna took the crystal carefully. It was warm in her palm, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. There is something else, Han said. Something I have not told you yet. She looked up at him. What? Humanity did not only evolve. We also spread. Our consciousness, our essence, exists everywhere now. In the stars. In the space between atoms. In the thoughts of every living being. I do not understand. Han smiled gently. Have you ever had a sudden idea? A flash of inspiration that seemed to come from nowhere? A dream that felt more real than waking? Yuna thought about it. Yes, she had experienced those things. Everyone had. That was us, Han said. Whispering, guiding, helping where we could, without being seen. We have watched every species in this galaxy. We have seen your wars and your peace, your failures and your triumphs. We have loved you all, even when you hated us. Tears formed in Yuna's eyes. She did not know why. She barely understood what Han was saying. But something in his words touched her heart. Why? She asked. Why did you help us? We feared you. We called you monsters. Because that is what parents do, Han replied. They love their children, even when the children do not understand. They protect them, even when the children push them away. Humanity left this galaxy, but we never abandoned it. You are our family, all of you. Every species, every soul. Yuna wiped her eyes. She was a commander, a soldier. She was not supposed to cry. But this was too much. Too beautiful. Too painful. The void will arrive in 97 years, Han said. In that time, we must prepare. We must unite. We must become one galaxy, one people, fighting together against the darkness. He placed his hand on her shoulder. It will not be easy. There will be those who refuse, those who cling to old fears and hatreds. But I believe in you. I believe in all of you. What if we fail? Yuna asked quietly. Then we will fight anyway. We will stand against the void until the last star goes dark. Because that is what life does. It struggles. It hopes. It never surrenders. He looked into her eyes with a fire that had burned for 20,000 years. But we will not fail. I have seen the future, Yuna. I have seen 1,000 possible paths. And in most of them, we win. The galaxy survives. Life continues. Hope endures. Yuna took a deep breath. She squared her shoulders and stood tall. She was afraid, of course. She was afraid. But she was also determined. Then let us begin, she said. Show me everything. Teach me what I need to know. And when I return to my people, I will convince them. I will make them see the truth. Han smiled, and for a moment, Yuna could see the weight of ages lifting from his shoulders. He had waited so long. He had been alone so long. And now, finally, someone had listened. Thank you, he said simply. Outside the ship, the stars waited. The darkness waited. The future waited. And for the first time in 20,000 years, humanity was no longer alone. The inside of the ghost ship was not what Yuna expected. She had imagined darkness and dust, the remains of a dead civilization. Instead, she found light and warmth, as if the ship had been waiting for guests. The hangar bay was enormous, large enough to hold 100 shuttles. Strange machines lined the walls, their purpose unknown. The floor was smooth and clean, without a single mark or stain. Everything looked new, as if it had been built yesterday. Commander, the air is breathable, said one of her soldiers, checking his scanner. Temperature is perfect. No toxins, no radiation. Yuna removed her helmet slowly. She took a breath. The air smelled fresh, like a forest after rain. It was impossible, but it was real. Stay close, she ordered. Keep your weapons ready. They moved forward, leaving the shuttle behind. The hangar opened into a long corridor, also filled with soft blue light. There were no windows, no doors, just an endless passage leading deeper into the ship. Yuna walked in front, her hand on her weapon. She was not afraid. She had trained herself to control fear long ago. But she was alert. Every sense was focused. Every muscle was ready. As they walked, she noticed something strange. The walls of the corridor were covered with images. They were not paintings or photographs. They were moving, like memories frozen in time. She saw planets and stars. She saw cities rising from nothing. She saw people, humans, living and working and dreaming. One image caught her attention. It showed a young man standing on a mountain, looking up at the sky. His face was full of wonder, his eyes bright with hope. He seemed so alive, so real, that Yuna almost reached out to touch him. They were beautiful, she whispered. Commander? Asked one of her soldiers. The humans. Look at them. They were just like us. The soldier looked at the images. He said nothing, but his expression changed. For the first time, he was seeing humans not as legends or monsters, but as people. Real people who had lived and loved and died. They continued walking. The corridor led them to a large door, made of the same strange metal as the hull. It had no handle, no control panel. It simply waited. When Yuna stepped closer, the door opened on its own. Beyond, it was a room unlike anything she had ever seen. It was a command center, filled with consoles and screens. But it was also something more. It felt alive, aware, as if the ship itself was watching them. In the center of the room was a platform. And on the platform was a capsule made of crystal and light. Inside the capsule was a man. He was human. Yuna approached slowly, her heart beating fast. The man was young, maybe 30 years old. He had black hair and a calm face. His eyes were closed, and his chest rose and fell with each breath. He was alive. 20,000 years, Yuna said softly. He has been sleeping for 20,000 years. As if hearing her words, the capsule began to glow brighter. The crystal started to dissolve, turning into mist that floated away like smoke. The man's eyes opened. They were dark brown, deep and warm. They looked at Yuna without fear, without surprise. They looked at her as if he had been expecting her. Hello, he said. His voice was gentle, calm. My name is Han. Welcome to the Eternal Dawn. Yuna did not know what to say. She had prepared speeches in her mind, questions she wanted to ask. But now, standing before an actual human, all her words disappeared. I am Commander Yuna, she finally managed. Of the Galactic Patrol Fleet. We detected your signal and came to investigate. Han smiled. It was a kind smile, the smile of someone who had seen much and forgiven more. I know, he said. I have been waiting for you. Waiting for me? How did you know I would come? Because the time is right. The long silence is ending, and you are meant to hear the truth. Han stepped down from the platform. He moved easily, without any sign of weakness from his long sleep. He walked toward a console and touched it with his fingers. The screens around them came to life, showing images of the galaxy. 20,000 years ago, humanity faced a choice. Han began. We had grown powerful. Our technology was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. We could have conquered every world, ruled every species. Some of my people wanted that. He paused, looking at one of the screens. It showed Earth, blue and green and beautiful. But most of us wanted something different. We wanted peace. We wanted to learn, to explore, to understand. We did not want to be masters. We wanted to be students. Yuna listened carefully. This was not what she had expected. The old stories said that humans were warriors, conquerors, destroyers. But Han spoke of peace and learning. So what happened? She asked. Where did your people go? Han turned to face her. His eyes were sad now, filled with ancient pain. We evolved, he said simply. We found a way to leave our physical bodies behind. We became something more, beings of pure thought and energy. We could travel anywhere, see everything, exist forever. You became gods, whispered one of the soldiers. No, Han said firmly. Not gods. Just different. We are still human in our hearts. We still feel love and joy and sorrow. We just do not need bodies anymore. But you are here, Yuna said. You are in a body right now. Yes, I chose to stay behind. Someone needed to watch the ship. Someone needed to be here when the time came. The time for what? Han walked to another screen. He touched it, and a new image appeared. It was a map of the galaxy, but there was something wrong with it. In one corner, there was a darkness, not empty space, but something else. Something that seemed to move and grow. 20,000 years ago, we discovered something, Han said. Something ancient. Something terrible. A force from beyond our galaxy, older than the stars themselves. It was coming toward us, slowly but surely. We knew that one day it would arrive. What is it? Yuna asked. We call it the Void. It is not alive, not in any way we understand. But it consumes. It destroys. Every galaxy it touches becomes empty and dead. Yuna stared at the map. The darkness was still far away, but she could see that it was moving. It was coming closer. Why did you not tell anyone? She demanded. Why did you disappear instead of warning us? Han's face was filled with guilt. We tried, but nobody would listen. The other species hated us. They feared us. When we spoke of the Void, they thought it was a trick, a lie to make them surrender. So we made a different choice. What choice? We left, but not completely. We watched from the shadows, waiting for the Void to come closer. When it was time, we planned to return and fight. He looked at Yuna with those ancient eyes. That time is now. The Void will reach this galaxy in less than 100 years. And when it does, everything will die. Every planet, every species, every dream. Unless we stop it. Yuna felt the weight of his words. 100 years. That was nothing. That was barely 3 generations. Can it be stopped? She asked. Han smiled again, but this time there was fire in it. Hope and determination. Yes, humanity has spent 20,000 years preparing. We have weapons that can hurt the Void. We have ships that can fight it. We have a plan. He extended his hand toward her. But we cannot do it alone. We need allies. We need the other species to join us. We need the galaxy to unite. Yuna looked at his hand. She thought about everything she knew, everything she had been taught. Humans were dangerous. Humans were not to be trusted. But looking into Han's eyes, she saw no deception. She saw only truth. She took his hand. Tell me everything, she said. Tell me how we can win. Han nodded. The screens around them flickered, showing plans and maps and strategies. It begins here, he said. It begins with you. And so, in the heart of a ghost ship, floating in the space where Earth once existed, the first true alliance between humans and aliens was born. The stars were quiet that night. They had been quiet for 20,000 years. Captain Tay stood at the bridge of his patrol ship, looking out at the endless darkness of space. He was tired. His shift had been long, and nothing ever happened in this part of the galaxy. Nothing had happened here for a very long time. "Sir, the sensors are showing normal readings," said his navigator. A young officer named Sue. She was new to the crew, eager to prove herself. But there was nothing to prove out here. There was only silence. Tay nodded slowly. He had been a captain for 15 years. In all that time, he had never seen anything unusual. The dead sector was empty. It had always been empty. Everyone knew that. The dead sector was what they called the region of space where Earth once existed. 20,000 years ago, the humans lived there. They built cities on their blue planet. They created art and music. They dreamed of touching the stars. And then, one day, they were gone. Nobody knew what happened to them. The Galactic Council sent ships to investigate. They found nothing. No bodies, no ruins, no sign of war or disaster. The humans had simply vanished, as if they had never existed at all. At first, the other species were afraid. The humans had been powerful. Their technology was advanced beyond understanding. Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Others thought they had left for another galaxy. A few whispered that they were still out there, watching from the shadows. But as the centuries passed, fear turned to relief. The humans were gone, and they were not coming back. The galaxy moved on. New empires rose and fell. Old wars were forgotten. And the dead sector became a place that no one visited anymore. Tay yawned and rubbed his eyes. He was thinking about going to sleep when Sue spoke again. "Captain, I am picking up something strange." Tay turned to look at her. "What is it?" Sue's face was pale. Her fingers moved quickly over her console. "A signal, sir. It is coming from deep within the dead sector." "That is impossible," Tay said. "There is nothing out there." "I know, sir. But the signal is real. I have checked it 3 times. Tay walked over to her station. He looked at the readings on her screen. She was right. There was a signal, weak but steady. It was coming from a location that had been empty for 20,000 years. "What kind of signal is it?" Tay asked. "I do not know, sir. The pattern is not in our database. It does not match any known species." Tay felt a cold feeling in his chest. He had heard stories about the dead sector. Every spacer had heard them. Tales of ghost ships that appeared and disappeared. Lights that moved in the darkness. Voices that called out from nowhere. He had always thought they were just stories, told by drunk pilots in old stations. Now he was not so sure. "Send a message to command," Tay ordered. "Tell them what we have found." "Yes, sir." While Sue sent the message, Tay stared out at the stars. The dead sector looked the same as always, dark and empty. But somewhere out there, something was sending a signal. Something that had been silent for 20,000 years. An hour later, a response came from command. It was from Admiral Mina, the highest-ranking officer in the patrol fleet. Her voice was serious. "Captain Tay, we have received your report. Do not approach the signal. Do not attempt to investigate. Wait for backup. A fleet is being sent to your location." Tay frowned. A fleet? For one signal? That seemed like too much. But he was a soldier. He followed orders. "Understood, Admiral," he replied. "We will wait." The waiting was hard. Tay's crew was nervous. They could feel that something was wrong. The ship was quiet, except for the hum of the engines and the soft beeping of the sensors. Jin, the weapons officer, stood next to Tay. He was an old friend, someone Tay had served with for many years. "Do you think it is real?" Jin asked quietly. "The stories about the humans?" Tay did not answer right away. He thought about the old records he had studied in the academy. The humans had been remarkable. They were small and weak compared to other species. Their planet was ordinary. They had no natural advantages. And yet, they had built an empire that stretched across the stars. They had technology that no one else could understand. They had weapons that could destroy entire fleets in seconds. Some said the humans were gods who had grown bored of the universe. Others said they were monsters who had been punished for their sins. But most people did not talk about them at all. It was better to forget. "I do not know," Tay finally said. "But I think we are about to find out." The fleet arrived 12 hours later. 10 ships, led by Commander Yuna on the battleship Iron Mountain. Tay had never seen so many ships in one place. Whatever command was expecting, they were taking it seriously. Yuna contacted Tay directly. She was a stern woman with sharp eyes and a cold voice. "Captain, show me the signal," she ordered. Tay sent her the data. There was a long pause before Yuna spoke again. "This pattern," she said slowly. "I have seen it before." "In the old archives. What is it?" Tay asked. "A beacon," Yuna replied. "A human beacon." The words hung in the air. Tay felt his heart beating faster. Around him, his crew had stopped moving. Everyone was listening. "That is not possible," Tay said. "The humans have been gone for 20,000 years, Yuna finished. "I know, and yet, here it is. A signal from the dead." She paused again. When she spoke, her voice was different. There was something in it that Tay had never heard before. Something that might have been fear. "Captain, the signal is not just a beacon. It is a message. And it is repeating the same words over and over." "What words?" Yuna was silent for a moment. Then she spoke. "We are still here." Tay felt the cold spread through his entire body. Outside the window, the dead sector waited in darkness. And somewhere in that darkness, something ancient was waking up. Commander Yuna stood on the bridge of the Iron Mountain, her hands clasped behind her back. Her eyes never left the viewing screen. The signal was still there, pulsing in the darkness like a heartbeat. "We are still here." Those words echoed in her mind. She had spent her whole life studying military history. She knew about the humans. Everyone in the academy learned about them. They were taught as a lesson, a warning about what happens when a species becomes too powerful. But Yuna had always been curious. She had read the old records, the ones that most people ignored. She had seen the images of human ships, beautiful and terrible. She had studied their tactics, their strategies, their way of thinking. And she had always wondered, where did they go? Now, perhaps she was about to find out. "Commander, all ships are in position," reported her second officer, a tall man named Day. He was calm, but Yuna could see the tension in his shoulders. "Good," she replied. "Tell all captains to maintain formation. Nobody moves until I give the order." "Yes, Commander." The fleet waited. Minutes passed like hours. The signal continued to pulse, unchanged. Some of the younger officers were getting restless. They had never faced real danger before. They did not know what it felt like to wait for something terrible. Yuna knew. She had fought in 3 wars. She had seen friends die. She had made decisions that cost lives. But this was different. This was something beyond her experience. This was history coming back to life. "Commander!" shouted the sensor officer, a woman named Hannah. "Something is happening." Hyperspace distortion detected. Yuna's heart jumped. "Where?" "Directly ahead, 5,000 kilometers. Something is coming through." On the viewing screen, space itself began to twist. Colors bent and broke. Light folded in ways that should not be possible. And then, with a flash brighter than any star, something emerged. It was a ship, but not like any ship Yuna had ever seen. It was massive, larger than a moon. Its hull was black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with a soft blue light. It moved slowly, silently, like a whale swimming through an ocean of stars. "By the gods," whispered Day, "it is beautiful." Yuna said nothing. She was staring at the ship, comparing it to the images in her memory. The shape was right. The size was right. Even the symbols matched the ancient records. "It is a human vessel," she said quietly. "A Titan-class warship. I thought they were all destroyed." "Commander, what should we do?" asked Hannah. Yuna did not answer immediately. Her mind was racing. A human ship appearing after 20,000 years. It was impossible. It was a miracle. It was terrifying. "Hail them," she ordered. "All frequencies. All languages." Hannah worked quickly at her console. "Message sent, Commander." No response. "Send it again." Still no response. The ghost ship continued to move forward. It was heading toward the center of the dead sector, toward the place where Earth once existed. It showed no interest in the fleet. It did not change course. It did not slow down. It simply moved as if nothing else mattered. "It is ignoring us," said Day. "Should we intercept?" Yuna considered the question. Her orders were to investigate the signal. But no one had told her what to do if an ancient warship appeared. No one had expected this. "Follow them," she decided. "Keep our distance. Do not engage unless attacked." The fleet began to move. The Iron Mountain led the way, with the other ships forming a protective line behind it. They followed the ghost ship deeper and deeper into the dead sector, into territory that had been empty for millennia. Captain Tay's patrol ship stayed at the back of the formation. He watched the ghost ship on his screen, unable to look away. It was the most incredible thing he had ever seen. "Captain," said Sue, "I am detecting energy readings from the vessel. It is not using any propulsion system that I recognize." "What is powering it?" Tay asked. "I do not know, sir. The readings do not match anything in our database. It is as if the ship is moving on its own, without engines." Jin laughed nervously. "A ship that moves without engines. What is next? A crew that does not need air?" Nobody else laughed. The joke was not funny. Out here, in the darkness, anything seemed possible. Hours passed. The fleet followed the ghost ship across empty space. There were no planets here, no stations, no signs of life. Just darkness and stars and the massive vessel leading them forward. Yuna used the time to study the ship more closely. Her sensors gathered data, but most of it made no sense. The hull was made of materials that did not exist in any database. The energy signatures were completely foreign. Even the shape of the ship defied normal engineering principles. "It should not be able to fly," she murmured to herself. "The design is wrong. The weight distribution is impossible." And yet there it was, flying through space as if physics did not apply to it. "Commander," said Hannah, "we are approaching the coordinates where Earth used to be." Yuna nodded. "Understood. All ships, reduce speed. Prepare for anything." The fleet slowed down. The ghost ship did the same. It came to a stop in the middle of empty space, floating in the exact location where Earth had once existed. "Why is it stopping here?" asked Day. "I do not know," Yuna admitted. "But I intend to find out." She made a decision. It was risky, but she was tired of waiting. She was tired of watching and wondering. She needed answers. "Prepare a boarding team," she ordered. "I am going over there myself." Day's eyes went wide. "Commander, that is too dangerous. We do not know what is on that ship. That is exactly why I need to go. If there is something on that ship, I need to see it with my own eyes. At least let me come with you." Yuna shook her head. "No. If something happens to me, you will need to take command. Stay here. Keep the fleet ready." Day wanted to argue, but he knew it was useless. Yuna had made up her mind. Once she decided something, nothing could change it. 30 minutes later, Yuna was aboard a small shuttle, flying toward the ghost ship. She had brought 5 soldiers with her, all veterans of the last war. They were the best fighters she had donned. As they approached the massive vessel, Yuna felt a strange sensation. It was like someone was watching her, not with eyes, but with something else. Something deeper. "Commander, I am picking up a signal from the ship," said the shuttle pilot. "It is different from the beacon. This one is directed at us. What does it say?" The pilot paused. His voice was shaking when he answered. "It says, 'Welcome home.'" Yuna stared at the ghost ship. Its surface seemed to shimmer as if it were alive. Slowly, a section of the hull began to open, revealing a hangar bay filled with soft blue light. The ship was inviting them inside. Yuna took a deep breath. Whatever waited for her in there, she was going to face it. After 20,000 years, the humans had returned, and she was going to be the first to meet them. "Take us in," she ordered. The shuttle flew forward, entering the ghost ship. Behind them, the hangar door closed, sealing them inside. There was no going back now. The legend had returned, and Yuna was about to discover the truth.